All right. Okay.
All right.
So I have the first point about the product design planning for 14.4. Yeah, there are a couple of things, not a couple, some things that I'd like to talk about just to make sure that we are aligned and that you can raise any concerns now that could be harder to express through comments or that would take more time. So let's go through them one by one. So the first one, synthesize prior research on MR navigation user flow. That was almost completed in 14.3. Annabelle did the work there of the synthesis, and now she's doing a presentation that needs cleanup. And then we also need to prioritize the problems that she found and subsequently also prioritize the recommendations to address those problems. And one of the things that we found, and that is under the follow-up research point, is that we did not answer one of the research questions, which was, what does the user's journey with merge requests look like? What are their goals? What do they value? Does that change over time? We were not able to answer that. So one of our recommendations is to do follow-up research just focused on MR user journeys. And Annabelle, she reviewed all of the prior research that we have linked in that first issue of the synthesis, including those very helpful recordings where engineers went through their review process with a real merge request. And she found those extremely helpful, but it's not comprehensive enough, and it's unmoderated. So she doesn't have the ability to ask them specific questions to understand the why behind certain things. And so we feel that although we already have some information, we need more of this information about the user journeys so that we can then make better decisions about the problems. The most important problem being that it's not clear what users need at specific moments of the user journey. There's just a general sense of, hey, this is too much clutter. We have done some parallel research that actually Anne Lash, one of our UX researchers, did for issues, epics, and merge requests. I don't know if you saw that listed the priority or how important certain metadata is for users, and that is very helpful, but it doesn't take time into account, or moments, or roles, or different goals, depending on what you're doing. And Annabelle felt that we needed to raise some confidence about that question to answer it properly before we can dig deeper. Yeah, and I'll pause there for your reaction.
I guess that makes sense. But not.
I'm hearing you a bit robotic. Okay. Well, at least you know what it is.
Hey.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I think that makes sense. I think my question is more for the follow-up research, do we need to do that with like internal and external people, or do we think we can just like lean on engineers internally to sort of tag along on a review or borrow their time to do that? And I ask because I know I saw, I don't even remember who, like there's like 20 research, like open research studies all trying to recruit, and like recruiting pipelines are super slow for research. We've also got like the VS Code stuff that'll come up sort of soon, actually, which we'll have to do with internal people too. So I'm just trying to figure out like, in order to like efficiently do that, it feels like we probably need, like we could efficiently do that with internal people. If we need external people, this feels like it's going to take a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. I think, we have to strike a balance here of perfection or the opposite of perfection. And of course, it would be ideal if we had research with external people, etc. But I think with internally, with our engineers, we could already sufficiently raise our confidence to acceptable levels that give us some security about where we should go and what we should do first and what is important or not. One of the things that Annabelle mentioned was that other than external users that from the wider community that use GitLab to review merge requests, it would also be interesting to see how other people use competitors like GitHub, Bitbucket, and Gerrit. But in the end, those are very interesting inputs. But in the end, I don't believe those interviews with external GitLab users and with users of other tools, they will tell us what we need to do with the current situation. I think evaluating competitors is something that we can do separately on our own in a lightweight manner that just involves one person, one designer looking through all of it. And it can certainly give us, I don't know, a lot of things. So I'm just thinking about, the 80-20 rule, the Pareto law is that, you get 80% of the value from 20% of the effort. So I think that's exactly what I agree. We do just internal, we might get 80% of the value there, maybe less, maybe more, I don't know. So that's something that we can do only internally.
Cool. Okay.
The good thing, and this is something I wish Annabelle was here, but we can then share this recording with her. I was very happy that we could time box this synthesis just to one milestone, and she could dig all of those recommendations. I mean, some of them we already knew, others we did not. But nonetheless, it just paints a comprehensive picture of where we are today and where we need to go now. And now the outstanding work of just working on the presentation. So it needs just some cleaning up in the prioritization of the problems. I'm very happy that we were able to do this in just over a milestone, basically. Taking into account that she onboarded during this milestone and that I was off as well. There were other people on vacations. So I'm very happy that we were able to do this. And that's why I also think that if we are able to time box this research to answer the question about the user journeys and what they value at different moments and with different roles, I think we're also able to get just enough value. I think that's what we should strive for, is just enough value, just enough to learn something and move on. So I'm very happy about that.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's good to hear that we were. But as always, the risk is that some of these run long. So that's good that we were timely on that.
Exactly. Then we have machine learning to suggest reviewers. This is something that I hope that Annabelle is able to take on herself. I was initially thinking that I would do that myself. But this is something that more or less from scratch. Of course, it would be enhancing what we already have today, but it would be something that I would have to gain context and she would have to gain context as well. And I'm hoping that we can do a quick comparative evaluation to see how other similar tools are suggesting people. So not only Garrett and GitHub and other tools that suggest reviewers, but also, for example, as a very common example, when you're writing in Gmail, it suggests you people that you should add as a CC or other other people to your email. So there are other tools that we can look at to gain some inspiration and see what works well and what doesn't work well, so that we can then proceed to a solution design. I think because this is focused just on showing and accepting reviewer recommendations, and that we're building on what we already have today. Yeah, I'm hopeful that we can get this done in 14.4, so that the machine learning team can then work on that and implement it in 14.5. So yeah, I think I would like for Annabelle to take that on. You have a question. Are there any issues with this? Have we looped in Taylor? Not yet. Not yet, but yeah, we will basically loop him in and make sure that they're involved and that they can share the existing contacts that they have, because they've already been working on that. Oh, when you say, are there issues with this, you mean, have we created issues for the solution design? Oh, no, we haven't, no.
That should make that more clear. Okay, yeah, and then I just added a note that, like, based on the way that the MLOps group is structured, they don't have front-end engineers. And so we just need to be mindful of solution, because it will likely eat into our capacity. So we should just take that into account. They also don't really have backend engineers that know the Rails code base either. So we'll just have to be also sort of aware of that, depending on timeline, which is why I suggested it might be good to get in touch with Taylor, because I know there are like checkpoints as part of the integration that have to happen within like certain time periods. And so it might be just good to get on the same page about what we think it'll take and when we think that work can happen.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Yeah, the next point, consolidate merge requests, main actions in one place. So this is an issue that I've been dragging along, and essentially it's to continue the work, the amazing work that Sanjung did of that consolidation, but taking out just the parts, removing the sticky header out of the equation and just focusing on moving main actions to one place, even if it's not always visible, but at least having them at the top. So it's just, there are two things here: reviewing the existing design to make sure that everything makes sense, and that we're also considering mobile and issues and epics, because that's something that will come up if we need to then propagate this design to other areas of GitLab. If we change the header of merge requests, it would be a bit odd if issues and epics had a different header, unless there's a very good reason for it. So that's part of the review of the design, and also then validated with users. And for that, we can use unmoderated testing with usertesting.com, because this is a fairly it's an impactful change, but it's fairly small in terms of surface area.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm maybe less concerned about if there are differences between issues epics and merge requests. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm
probably
not
maybe
too
because of that.
concerned either. No.
So, okay, cool.
Yeah, I just think, I just think it's important, even if we end up deciding having different headers, that we at least show that we've considered it and we involve them. Yeah, I think this is the important part. Merge requests that require my attention. So this is something that we discussed when prioritizing problem areas as a secondary problem area that we could be working on in parallel with the work that Annabelle was doing about MR navigation and user flow. I haven't found time for it. And there are basically two questions here. One is more urgent. How far away are we from starting the implementation of that, those designs that Sanjong validated?
It's a good question. I mean, at this point, it'll be no earlier than 14.5, but much of that hinges on
yeah.
engineering allocation, because a lot of the initial work will be backend, and so until we have backend engineering capacity back, we can't. There's not much we can do here. I think we're our hands are sort of tied, waiting on backend engineering capacity. And then potentially that's 14.5, but then I think the risk is we are committed to all the new mergeability work, which backend is working on. And that's OKR driven as well as somewhat part of reliability work. And then there's also still caching issues that are open. So like some of the performance work that they're doing is still open and has feature flags. So 14.5 would be the earliest. That feels incredibly optimistic, just sort of given how things have sort of seemed to trend. Because we're now starting to examine sort of other backlogs that exist in terms of other performance issues, infra dev security, things like that need to be looked at. So 14.5, but that feels optimistic. I'd say 14.6 is probably more realistic, unless we find an issue that we could do. I think one of the pieces here, though, is that we still haven't gotten a breakdown from engineering on this.
Sorry, what did you say that we don't have?
We don't have a breakdown from engineering, which we had asked for to build the issues out for front end and back end. Or they did. I guess there's just not issues. They sort of put rough plans together.
Yeah, Andreas suggested something for front end, a rough plan, but then you left a comment 2 months ago suggesting to have engineers from each side spend some time looking at this and developing issues. Yes, that's what I would like for us to do. I'd like, just the engineers to poke the design to see what are the known unknowns and what are the known knowns.
Okay. So maybe we can revisit that over the course of 14.4 and 14.5. We can discuss it. Let me do this. Let me just add a note for.
Okay. Let's do that. All right.
Okay.
Okay, let's try to push. I mean, so with the engineering allocations, so backend is 100% unavailable, so to speak.
Yes, for feature work, in theory, yes.
Okay. Okay, but this is not feature work, right? This is planning work, I guess.
Yeah. I think we could probably find some capacity for planning work, but like your question was how far away are we from implementation? And I'd say implementation is the other piece. I think we can ask Matt and Andre to get engineers to look at this now. I think that's a reasonable request, I think.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and as part of this, I was thinking, because we talked about that when we were prioritizing the problem areas, and that this work is related to someday improving the MR dashboard, someday improving the batch comments feature. Yeah, and I'm thinking if it would be worth investing a bit of time into creating a vision, so rough mock-ups that tell a story of how things could be if we improved those aspects in the future, because this is something that we know we want to work on. I don't know. I see some value in doing this if we know that this is something that we want to work on as soon as possible, or to continue working on as soon as possible. But I don't want us to be distracted. What do you think?
When you say like vision, do you you and James had done sort of the vision for real time at one point a few years ago, and nothing's happened with that, I think, is maybe the polite way to say that, sort of like.
Sure.
So like is that what you're thinking for this and sort of all of the pieces related to it, or are you thinking something?
Yes,
yeah,
that would be
similar.
it. That would be it, but with with a huge caveat that we would commit to not doing what is in the vision, but that we would commit to working in that problem space during in the near future, which is something that we didn't do with real time. We did all of that, and it was a great experience, and it kind of energized everyone, but we were not committed to it, and we were too spread out, as you know, right? We didn't have any focus in the group.
Yeah.
But if we have focus, and if we say we're going to commit to working on this, we're not necessarily implementing those mock-ups as is and that story, but something similar to that with those goals in mind. I don't know. But again, I don't know if this is valuable or not.
I think it's valuable in terms of creating more vision content for the team to rally behind. I think it's valuable in terms of putting that content out for other people to see. I think the question we sort of did, like the prioritization of problem areas. We've also got these opportunity canvas pieces and other validation work coming through that we're supposed to be doing. I guess my question would be is like time commitment plus what you have we sort of already decided we wanted to go work on, which is related but not related. I wonder if it makes sense to do this at a point when sort of more of the research you want to get through is done? Or do you think this would inform the types of research you want to do? And so maybe it's interesting to do it now and use that as like hypothesis and validate, or would you rather like have some more ideas and research and then sort of lay something out and then continue to iterate on that?
I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, I think, yeah, this would probably not get done during this milestone because we have more urgent things to work on. I don't know. Let me think about it. Let's keep this in the back burner for now, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's something to continue to think about. I like the idea of doing it. I think it'd be interesting to go through that sort of experience as a PM, because I haven't done that, and I thought that was interesting in terms of the way you and James had done that one. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then I list some smaller work. You can read through it. I don't know if you have any specific questions.
I don't. The blocking approval problem validation. Are we picking that up, I guess, for any reason in particular, or I guess to sort of solidify our stance on blocking actions in general? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and to give something with some, to give something to our customer that wants to help with this, some rationale for our stance, whatever that stance may be. I'm going to tell you that I'm going into this with the assumption that all of this can be solved if we have better default rules, or better rules, period, for who can resolve a thread.
Okay.
Because from what I've been reading, that thing sticks out, is people have no control over the threads that they create, and anyone can resolve them, and the author resolves it, and everything looks okay, and then it's ready to merge. Yeah, so that's why I want to do a very quick problem validation on that, which is basically just looking through all of the comments and other community feedback, and trying to dissect the problem into what is really behind that feedback, basically.
Cool.
Yeah, let's move that other point so that everyone can participate. I think it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I think it's worth a discussion, and I'm fine to wait on having that discussion. It's not. I don't think it's urgent that we have it. And we can talk about planning issue. I think it'd be the design planning issue is interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes for the quarter or for the month, for the milestone, whatever period of time it is. Yeah, I think we can see how it goes.
Yeah,
I appreciate the rundown.
When you commented, your thought is, I appreciate everything in a single issue, because you don't have to go back and forth. You can see everything that the team is working on. Yeah, let's see how it goes. It might be interesting to have this experiment on the side first to see how well it fares out, and then we can think about transitioning and adapting some of the parts to that global planning issue, so that it, my main concern was polluting it and having many things that are specific to UX. or product design in this case, but maybe we can abstract some of the things or hide them or, do some clever things but keeping the same outcome.
Yeah, I would just say, I think, I think in the planning issue would be, I think there's noise to it, but we ask engineers to sort of like provide updates or like talk about what's going on or like problems or things that they're running into, which helps, at least helps me like understand where things are at so I can do all of that. And so this is sort of that earlier content that I know some engineers have asked for, of like, where are we going? What are we working on? And we don't talk about a lot of this stuff in forums that they're typically present in or that they are in. And so it might be a way to like shine that light on like, here's all these things that are happening that, yeah, we're not there on work yet, but like, this is what we're thinking about and talking about on a regular basis.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe once we do that and we have everything in one planning issue, we can do a retro and just ask people, did they think it was a lot of noise? Was it valuable or not? And we can go from there.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I appreciate you trying it out this milestone. This is already, I think, more insight than I had maybe into what product design worked on a regular basis anyways. I knew in broad strokes what was happening. It's nice to have the specifics. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kai. Thanks for the feedback. It was nice seeing you, and good luck with your mic. And
I'm gonna throw it out. I think that's what's gonna happen. So
okay.
yeah.
See you tomorrow.
All right, see ya.
Bye.